Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched, first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. I am so incredibly excited for today's episode. We have a guest who spent a decade as one of the most recognizable faces on television, a man who made us laugh every Thursday night and wrote one of the most honest memoirs of our time. Joining us from the great beyond, please welcome Matthew Perry. Matthew, it is an absolute honor to have you here.
You know, I've always said that when I die, I don't want friends to be the first thing mentioned. I want it to be about helping people.
That's the spirit. We've got a lot to get through. So, for those who may somehow not know who you are you?
Well, officially, I'm Matthew Langford Perry. Most people know me as Chandler Bing, the guy with the sarcasm and the sweater vests, but I'd like to think I was also a writer, a tennis player, and someone who tried his best to find the light in the dark.
A man of many hats. When and where were you born?
I was born on August 19th, 1969, in Williamstown, Massachusetts.
And what was your given name at birth? Was there a story behind it?
Just Matthew Langford Perry. My middle name, Langford, comes from my mother's side of the family. It was her maiden name. My parents were Suzanne Marie Morrison and John Bennett Perry. They were both quite accomplished in their own right, so I had some big shoes to fill from day one.
I bet. What was your hometown like growing up?
Well, I was born in Massachusetts, but I really grew up in Ottawa, Ontario. It was a beautiful place, very safe, very quote-unquote Canadian in the best way. My mom was the press secretary to the Prime Minister, Pierre Trudeau, so I grew up around a lot of politics and fast-paced environments. It was a mix of that high-stakes world and being a regular kid playing tennis.
What was your family life like?
It was a bit complicated. My parents split up when I was less than a year old. I lived with my mom in Canada, and my dad was off in Los Angeles being an actor. I spent a lot of time as an unaccompanied minor on airplanes flying between the two. Later on, both my parents remarried, and I ended up with a lot of half-siblings. Caitlin, Emily, Willie, and Madeline on my mom's side. It was a full house.
What kind of kid were you?
I was a bit of a class clown, always looking for external validation. I wanted to be the funniest person in the room so people would like me. I was also a very competitive tennis player. I was nationally ranked in Canada. I think I carried that must-win energy into my acting later on.
What were your biggest fears growing up?
Honestly, abandonment. Being that 5-year-old on a plane by myself with a sign around my neck, that stays with you. I was always afraid that if I wasn't funny or successful, people would leave.
What did you dream of becoming as a child?
At first, it was a professional tennis player. I really thought I could make it. But when I moved to LA at 15 to live with my dad and realized the kids there were on a whole different level, I pivoted. I saw my dad acting and thought, hey, I can do that. And maybe if I'm famous enough, I'll finally feel okay.
What were some of your favorite activities in school?
Definitely drama and acting. I went to Ashbury College in Ottawa and later the Buckley School in Sherman Oaks. Anything that got me on a stage or in front of an audience was where I wanted to be.
What was your first job?
My very first acting gig was a small part in a show called Star 240 Robert back in 1979. I played a kid. But before the big fame, I was just a jobbing actor doing guest spots and pilots that didn't go anywhere.
Was there a moment where you realized you were different from everyone else?
Probably the first time I realized I could get a laugh out of a room full of adults. There's a specific kind of power in that. I also realized early on that I had a bit of a just add water personality when it came to certain habits. I didn't have an off switch like other people seem to.
What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
Deciding to write my own pilot with a friend called Maxwell's House. It was about a group of friends in their 20s. It didn't get picked up, but because I was working on it, I was unavailable for another pilot, which meant I was free when a little script called Friends Like Us, which became Friends, came along.
Talk about perfect timing. What was your biggest break?
Oh, it was Friends. No question. I read the script for Chandler and I knew. I didn't just want the part, I felt like I was the part. I knew exactly how to say those lines.
What were your biggest struggles before success?
Just the constant no. The life of an actor is a lot of waiting by the phone, and I was already struggling with trying to fill a hole inside me with whatever I could find, even before the world knew my name.
Did you ever consider quitting?
Many times. There were years where I was just the guy from the failed pilot. But the hunger for fame was so strong back then. I truly believed it would fix everything.
Were there any specific daily habits or routines that you feel were essential to your success?
When I was working on Friends, the routine was the work. We worked hard and we were a unit. But honestly, my most essential habit was my writing. Writing my memoir later in life was one of the most disciplined and healing things I ever did.
What job would you have had if fame never happened?
I think I would have been a writer or maybe a tennis coach, something where I could still use my brain and stay active.
What was your life like before fame?
It was a lot of dreaming, a lot of sitting in cheap apartments with my friends, talking about what we'd do when we made it. It was simpler in a way.
How did relationships change after success?
It gets harder. You start to wonder if people like you or the quote unquote guy on TV. I had a tendency to leave relationships before the other person could leave me. I dated some amazing women, like Julia Roberts, but I was often too scared to let them really know me.
Did fame bring happiness?
For about 6 months. Then I realized the hole was still there. Fame is like a bright light. It shows you everything you have, but it also highlights everything you're missing.
What was the downside of becoming famous?
The lack of privacy during my hardest moments. Having my struggles play out on the cover of magazines while I was trying to do my job was incredibly difficult.
What misconceptions did people have about you?
That I was always quote unquote on. People expected me to be Chandler 24/7, always cracking jokes, always sarcastic. Sometimes I just wanted to be Matthew.
What was your darkest moment?
There were several, but the health scares were the wake-up calls. At one point, my colon burst and I was in a coma for 2 weeks. The doctors told my family I had a 2% chance of living. That's about as dark as it gets.
What regrets did you carry?
I think I regretted the time lost to my big, terrible thing. I spent so much money and so many years trying to get sober. I also really wanted a family, a wife and kids. That was a big dream of mine.
Tell me about a time when everything went wrong and how you handled it.
One time I was at a friend's table read and I was so out of it, I couldn't remember my lines. It was embarrassing and heartbreaking. How did I handle it? Eventually, I had to be honest. Honesty was the only way out.
Who had the biggest influence on your life?
My parents, certainly, but also my castmates on Friends. They were like brothers and sisters to me. They protected me when I was down, and I loved them for it.
What was life like in your final years?
I was really focused on my book and sharing my story. I wanted to help people. I was living in Pacific Palisades, doing a lot of pickleball, which is like tennis, but for people with my knees, I was trying to find peace.
What were you working on career-wise before you passed away?
I had just finished the big book tour for Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. It was an international bestseller, and the response from people it helped meant more to me than any Emmy.
When and where did you pass away?
It was October 28, 2023, at my home in Los Angeles. I was 54.
What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
I'm missing part of my middle finger on my right hand. I shut it in a door when I was a kid. If you look closely in some scenes of Friends, you might spot it.
What's the craziest rumor ever told about you?
Oh, there were so many. People thought my stepfather, Keith Morrison from Dateline, was my biological father. He's a great guy and a wonderful dad, but we aren't blood related.
What was your most unique habit?
I was a bit of a stealer of small things. Not for money, but I'd take pills from open houses when I was at my worst. It's a strange, desperate habit I wrote about in my book to show how far down I'd gone.
What was your favorite food?
I loved a good cheeseburger. Simple, classic.
What advice would you give people chasing success?
Success is great, but it won't fix you. Work on yourself first. Be kind to yourself. And remember, If you're going through hell, keep going.
Matthew, this has been incredible. Do you have any closing remarks about our interview or the stories you shared that you would like to share with the listeners before we sign off?
Just that I'm so grateful to have been part of people's lives. If my stories make you laugh, or if my struggles make you feel less alone, then I did my job. Life is heavy, but it's also beautiful. Keep looking for the funny parts. And thank you, Calvin, for having me. This was a blast.
Thank you so much, Matthew. It was truly a joy. We've covered everything from tennis in Ottawa to the heights of Hollywood and the resilience of the human spirit. And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.